that you hear from me will be a letter from New York. Goodbye to all the girls at home. I'm going far across the foam. Try to make a fortune in far America. I'll leave my home in Cork to dig a ditch across New York. When I shall return again, I never more will say. My name is Michael Erie, and I'm off to dig the Erie. Take me out a new life in far America. Goodbye to all this pleasure, I'm off to make my measure. And the next time that you hear from me will be a letter from New York.
Good evening and welcome to our presentation of the Irish contribution to the building of the Erie Canal in this year of its 207th anniversary. You got that right?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
One more year.
One more year, it'll be 200 years from its opening. We are Craobh Dugan-O'Looney, a community organization and branch of an international organization based in Ireland whose mission is to preserve and promote traditional Irish music, song, dance, and language. But you know what? You already heard that from Bill, so you're all set.
Shortly after the birth of our country, it was apparent to the leaders of New York State and the federal government there was a considerable advantage to be had developing an easy route of trade from New York City up the Hudson, Albany, and west to the Great Lakes, Ontario, and Erie. The idea of the canal connecting the Hudson to the Great Lakes was born right after the Revolution. But in between the opening, there was a little war of 1812 that took place, and they were pretty active. But the government of New York never let go, and DeWitt Clinton, James Geddes pushed hard, and the Erie Canal became a reality, and the first shovel was turned in good old Rome, New York on July 4th, 1817. Now imagine digging a ditch 4 foot deep, 40 feet wide, and just 363 miles long, with shovels, picks, spades, through forests, swamps. Anybody been through Montezuma? That must have been fun. Yeah. It's just hard to imagine that today without, all the bulldozers, great alls, and all the things available. Well, there was labor available from the towns nearby and farms. It was apparent early that there was not enough. So they had to recruit immigrants, and they looked across the Atlantic to Ireland. A man named Candace White, who Whitestown was named after, he was an engineer back in the day, and he traveled to England and studied the canals there and the construction and how they were built. And he walked those canals. Apparently he logged over 2,000 miles looking at canals. I can't imagine that myself. But in his travels, he came across a fellow named J.J. McShane, who was a former prize fighter, so it qualified him to be a canal contractor. He was from County Tipperary, Ireland. But he soon found himself in America, having recruited numerous Irish from Ireland, and also many of the Irish immigrants who had already come over to work on the canal. Well, the majority of canal workers were born here. The Irish represented the single largest group of immigrant workers that worked the canal.
The American Wake. Leaving one's country across the vast ocean in the days when the most expedient mode of travel was the sailing ship was definitely a daunting prospect. The families that were left behind in Ireland would most likely never see their departing loved ones again. The ships that sailed out of various ports were often referred to as coffin ships for very good reason. Unsanitary conditions aboard these vessels took their toll on passengers, weaker and older, younger. Letters were often sent back to Ireland with terrible news that loved ones were lost on the voyage across the Atlantic, or maybe worse, no letters at all. But here's a letter.
My dear brother Liam, my sainted husband Donald has died crossing the ocean. The good captain of this boat is writing for me. The children, thanks be to God, are safe, but the 3 babies are down with a stomach illness. Bless young Donald. Sure, he is quite a man now, just like his dad. I still have a bit of money left, but that will soon be gone. I could take in laundry or find a family to work for in New York. I hope Donald's sister is still there. Ireland was bad, but without Donald, it is worse here. I have never been so afraid. Pray for your loving sister, Bridget O'Neill.
From this was born the American Wake, a send-off marking the departure of loved ones with music, song, and dance.
Farewell to the groves of Shillelagh and the Shamrock. Farewell to the girls of old Ireland all round. And may their hearts be as merry as e'er they could wish for. As far away o'er the ocean I am bound. My father is old and my mother's right feeble. To leave their own country it would grieve their hearts sore. Oh, the tears down their cheeks, in great floods they are rolling. To think that I must die upon some foreign shore. But what matters to me, where my bones they may lie buried, if in peace and contentment I can spend my life. The green fields of America, they daily are calling. It's there I find an answer to my misery and strife. So pack up your sea stores now, consider it no longer. $10 a week isn't very bad pay. With no taxes or tithes there to devour up your wages. Across on the green fields of America.
Irish need apply. The allure of adventure, steady employment, and wages as much as 50 cents a day, compared to 10 cents a day, and a steady supply of whiskey rations served as enticements to toil 12 to 14 hours a day in what was then our western wilderness.
Let your quacks and newspapers be cutting their capers about curing the vapors of scratch and the gout, with their medical potions, their serums and lotions, upholding their notions, they're mighty put out. Who can tell the true physic to all that's pathetic, and stick to that devil-cramped colic and spleen? You'll find it, I think, if you take a big drink with your mouth to the brink of a jug of poachine.
So stick to the craze and the best thing in nature, forsaking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh, what botheration, no dose in the nation can give consolation like whiskey, me boys.
While a child in the cradle, me nurse with her ladle was filling her mouth with a notion of pep, when a drop from the bottle fell into me throttle, I capered and scrambled clear out of her lap. On the floor I lay crawling and screaming and bawling, till father and mother were brought to the fore. All sobbing and sighing, they thought I was dying, but found I was only a-crying for more.
So stick to the craze of the best thing in nature, forsaking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, how they chuckle with babes in their truckles, they only could suckle on whiskey, me boys.
Through my youthful aggression, through times of depression, me childhood's impressions still clung to me mind. What at school or at college, the basis of knowledge I never could go to with whiskey combined. And as ever I'm growing, time's ever bestowing on Aaron's potation that flavor so fine. And howe'er they may lecture on Joe and his nectar, itself is the only true liquid divine. So stick to
The
the
praise are the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, it is the right thing for courting and fighting. There's not so exciting as whiskey, me boys.
While digging the Erie, our lives they were dreary, our bodies were weary, with our dale toil, with picking and shoveling and hacking and pulling the rocks and the trees from New York State soil. At rest from our labors, we'd get us the favor of Aaron's oak flavor, that whiskey so fine. Our hearts would be pining, we'd soon set the singing, and forget all our troubles with whiskey divine.
So stick to the praise are the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. From a jar or a kettle, it'll give you the mettle, so drink up your bottles of whiskey, me boys.
Come guess me this riddle, what beat pipes and fiddle, what's hotter than mustard and milder than cream? What best wets your whistle, what's clearer than crystal, what's sweeter than honey and stronger than steam? What'll make the lame walk, what'll make the dumb talk, the elixir of life and philosopher's stone? Oh, what helped thee with Clinton to build the old Erie? Well, 'twas whiskey, me boys, from Clinton, New York.
So stick to the praise are the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, it's no wonder if lightning and thunder were made from the plunder of whiskey, me boys.
The Irish contributed many other songs, words written to familiar Irish tunes and airs, and some songs reflected on the labor and toil aspects of the canal worker's life, while others seemingly spoke of the Irishman's thankfulness for being a part of this grand undertaking.
Excuse me. When I landed in sweet Philadelphia, the weather was pleasant and clear. Well, I did not stay long in that city, as quickly I shall let you hear. Well, I did not stay long in that city, for it happened to be in the fall. Well, I ne'er reefed a sail in my rigging, till I anchored upon the canal. So
Fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise of Ireland too. And fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu.
when I came to this wonderful empire, well, it filled me with the greatest surprise to see such a grand undertaking. Of the likes I ne'er opened my eyes, to see a full 1,000 brave fellows at work among mountains so tall, to dig through the valleys so level, through rocks for to cut a canal.
So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise of Ireland too. And fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu.
Well, I hired with them for a season, my monthly pay for to draw, and being in very good humor, I up and sang Erin go bra. Our provision it was very plenty, to complain with no reason at all. I had money in every pocket, while working upon the canal.
So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise of Ireland too. And fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu.
Well, I learned to be very handy, to use both the shovel and spade. I learned the whole art of canaling, I think it an excellent trade. Well, I learned to be very handy, although I was not very tall. I could handle the sprig of shillelagh with the best man on the canal.
So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise of Ireland too. And fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu.
Well, at night we'd all run rest from our labors. Be sure but our rent is all paid. We lay down our picks and our shovels, and likewise our axe and our spade, playing music and joking together, with nothing our minds to enthrall. If there's happiness so in this wide world, I am sure it is on the canal. So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise old Ireland too, and fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu. So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise old Ireland too, and fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I'll bid you adieu.
The mosquito-infested Montezuma swamp area between Syracuse and Rochester was a source of malaria and misery, bringing death to many a canal worker. And just as bad were the smudge pots of smoldering leaves, barks, and twigs that were worn around the necks of the canal workers to fend off the flying fiends. The local labor pool would not work in the swamp, but the Irish eagerly attacked the job under the leadership of James Geddes. Knee-deep swamp water, mosquitoes, and leeches made their lives hell. Wishing they had never heard the Erie, they turned their misery into a joke with this little ditty. We are digging the ditch to the mire, right up to our neck.
By heck.
And the mud is our principal hire, in our pants and our boots down our neck.
By heck.
In our pants and our boots down our neck. The living conditions were just as poor as the working conditions. And as the work progressed along the canal, the Irish would eventually move from the camps and shanty towns to the villages and towns along the way. It was not uncommon for a large Irish family to be living in a 10 by 14 shanty with the entire family sleeping on a single bed of mattress or straw. The Irish were not always welcome. The proclivity for drinking, rival county gang fights, strange language, accents, and ruined shenanigans put off the local populace. The clever Irish had fun with this notion, staging street sight fights between the husbands and wives with the children. They became known as the Wild Irish. Foreshadowed the death of a loved one, and fairies, the darker side of the mischievous but benign leprechaun. A Shawnee or storyteller would spin ghost stories for the new drivers or highways, youngsters new to the canal life. A convincing delivery and help from his fellow Irishmen would soon have those neophytes terrorized and running from their shanties from the apparition seen just beyond the fires. Thus was the right of the new Hoggies.
television watching all those political ads and all that. Isn't this so much better? No commercials. Well, you're not that lucky. I'm going to do a commercial now. If you look behind you, our club president, Hoke, is back there, and she's got a little table set up. And we have a CD, and there's a special sale just for you tonight. And I don't, what is our special sale, Chris?
Only $15 each.
Only $15 each. And if you wait till the show's over, they go up to 20. No, just kidding. They go down to 10. Anyways, we've got a lot of stuff in there. We got a book which it tells you the story of the songs and a lot more information on the characters who built the canal and some additional songs and tunes that we aren't going to play today. So check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. The Hoggy was the lowest man in the canal pecking order. These were often boys as young as 14, whose job was to lead the mules along the towpath in 10 to 12-hour shifts, day and night, in all kinds of weather. When not accommodated on the boats, they often would sleep in the stables with the mules and horses. And they weren't treated very well by the folks, the crews and the townspeople. They were the target of taunts like this.
Hockey on the towpath, 5 cents a day, picking up horse balls to eat along the way. Hockey on the towpath, don't know what to say, walks behind the moves behind the live long day.
He's on the streets of Albany in 1833. An old canal boat captain, he come walking up to me. He said, hey there, Patty, how would you like to go and spend your summer traveling from here to Buffalo? Well, I sure would like that job, oh Captain, I did say, but what can we do to Buffalo? It depends upon the pay. He said I pay a fair wage, food and whiskey too. So I said I'd go to Buffalo, and I signed up for the crew. Well, we left the port of Albany, it was nearly break of day. The captain said you're gonna walk that mule along the way. The day's hot and muggy, the travel it was slow. Seemed to me like hell on earth a walking to Buffalo. At dusk we got the boat and put the mules aboard the night. We'd eat our beans for supper by the fading light. The captain poured some whiskey, then we'd have a song or two. Then we'd drink ourselves to sleep, cause there was nothing else to do. When we finally got to Buffalo, I felt like I was dead. I asked the captain for my pay. This is what he said. Son, you drank up all your pay, be on your way and go. I wasted one long summer by walking to Buffalo.
That was Walking to Buffalo, written by Mr. Bill Fahy. I like that a lot better than My Gal Mule or Sal or whatever.
My good old, my gal Sal, I
My
don't
Gal
know.
Sal.
Whatever.
About a mule.
Yeah.
Anyways, the Erie Canal inspired many works of historical fiction. Most notably are the works of Walter D. Edmonds, Rome Hall, and Erie Water. Rome Hall is probably the more well-known of the two books, having been made into plays and movies like The Farmer Takes a Wife. The work features the Black River Canal, which came into use long after the old Erie Canal was built. The events portrayed in Erie Water take place in the time frame of the start of the Erie, with references to the politics involved and speaking to the logic of starting the dig in Rome. It is a story of a young man named Jerry Fowler who found his way west from Connecticut to Albany and Utica, where he lucks into a job helping to build the Erie's locks. Within this work is an anecdote called the Wild Irish. Edmonds spins a story of the Irish that had recently come on to aid in the digging through the Montezuma Swamp. Using the differences between the Irish and English language, this tale is a take on the Irish sense of humor. And you can read that book for yourselves.
Oh, that's my cue. It's yours. Yeah, I can't say enough about those books. I picked them up late, after we did this, we started doing this. And I was fascinated by how they described Utica and Rome and the towns back in the day. And if you ever been along the canal path, you know, you kind of brought it back. You really ought to check them out. They're really good. And we don't get paid on those, so. But back to our program, the impact of the Erie Canal on the growth of New York, you can't understate it. Prior to the construction of the Erie, Philadelphia was the largest port in America and the trade hub of the country. Afterwards, New York just took off like a rocket. Within 15 years of the canal's opening, New York was handling more freight than Philadelphia, Baltimore, and New Orleans combined. It was booming. The towns, they transformed overnight from, you know, Buffalo was a trading post and became a major city. Rochester, you know, population of just a few thousand, you know, grew into the thousands. And Rome became, the canal became a route for the immigrants to come. When they came into New York, they would take the canal up, and that's how they got to Chicago and Detroit, and in the Midwest started to build out. And along the way, the Irish assimilated into the fabric of all the towns along the canal. They overcame a lot of the prejudice held against them, and they rose to prominence in many walks of life, ranging from politics to industry to arts. And can't tell you their contribution to the Civil War, that's another story, but they played a major part in helping this country win the war, the north part of the country. But, you know, the sudden growth of the canal also gave rise to folk heroes and legends, and we do have a visual display for you. This fella right here, his name is Paddy Ryan, and came over from Tipperary when he was only 8 years old. And at 12, his first encounter with the canal was to jump into the canal to save a young girl from drowning. So soon after, he became a lock tender. And in those days, the locks had the wooden handles and it was pushing and pulling, so that's how he got the build. Well, a logical career progression took him to owning a saloon, and you had to be pretty tough in those days to own a saloon, and he had to build, and he was noticed there by Jack Kaloran, who was the athletic director at RPI, and he thought Paddy would make a great prize fighter, and he did. He actually won a fight, an 86 round fight with Joe Goss. Yeah. And think about it, the rounds ended in those days when someone was knocked down. So it was 86 times someone was knocked down. But he was the Irish champion, the world champion prize fighter. But he only held the title for a short time because another Irishman came along. His name was John L. Sullivan, and took the belt from Paddy.
Right.
So, there you go.
So there you go.
There you go.
Another prize fighter from Tipperary.
Tipperary, they know how to produce them.
Further west was a crossroads known as Empeyville, town of Florence, in western Oneida County. Now, does anybody know what Empeyville is famous for? No? Nobody here from the town of Florence, huh? Okay. Well, Empeyville is the home of the legend of Joshua, the giant frog. He's the giant frog of the Empeyville swamps. Legend has it that this amiable amphibian was crucial to the building of and continued success of the Erie Canal. Joshua was employed to pull stumps from the mires of the Montezuma Swamp. Later, he would be employed to pull stranded barges during the times of drought. That's some frog, I can tell you that. Beats the jumping frog of Calaveras County by a mile. Anyways, the town of Florence was established in 1805, and many Irish immigrants settled there in the 1830s, undoubtedly as a connection with the Erie Canal. Florence is not much bigger now than it was 200 years ago. In fact, it's probably smaller. But it bears its Irish heritage proudly, as its town logo features the Irish harp. As most of you realize, the traditional music and dances of Ireland had a significant impact and influence on the development of traditional American music and dance. The first three tunes that we played in this program should sound as familiar to many non-musicians as Happy Birthday, having been used in many films like The Quiet Man, for example, which was the first tune was featured in that movie, our very first tune. The set dances of the Irish with four couples in a square are the forerunners of the American square dance, and the Virginia reel line dance is the same dance as the Irish haymakers jig. The songs and ballads of the Irish and Scots-Irish made their way across the Atlantic through the Canadian Maritime, New England, New York, and into the Appalachian ballad tradition. One such song, Sally Gardens in Ireland, transformed from a love song to a murder ballad called Down by the Willow Gardens. Not really a stretch once you consider and realize that the willow tree is also known as the Sally tree in Ireland.
Sally garden, with little snow white. flying. My love, she is mine. It was there I murdered that dear little girl. Down on the banks below. I drew my saber through her. It was a whole sight. I threw her into the river. It was a whole sight. My father had often told me that one would set me free if I would just murder that dear little girl whose name is Rose. Now my father, he stands by the old cabin door. He's wiping tears on his eyes. He's gazing upon his dear son, upon the scaffold high. My race is run beneath the sun. The devil is waiting for me, for I did murder that dear little girl whose name was Carroll.
The sudden growth in Buffalo spurred the need for entertainment. Edwin Ned Christie appeared on the scene as a minstrel performing in Buffalo's newly built taverns and saloons. He went on to form the Christie's Minstrels, employing an Irish fiddler named Richard Hooley. The Christies went on to appear in New York City and across the South, and even across the pond in England. And they specialized in the music of Stephen Foster. had its influence as well, with familiar English words and phrases with Irish roots. Words that you have heard in this presentation tonight. Shanty from the Irish, shanty, which means old house, or banshee from the Irish, banshee, again, meaning old woman or fairy spirit. Hooligans, which were likely abundant along the canal back in the day, were derived from a London Irish family, Hoke, known for their rowdy ways. Galore, as in plentiful, comes from golare, meaning until plenty or just enough. The method of protest called boycotting was named after the Irish ostracized 19th century British land agent Charles Boycott. Finally, the familiar phrase "so long," meaning goodbye, had its roots, Irish roots, as slán, also meaning farewell or goodbye. So with that, we want to say Craobh Dugan-O'Looney, thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. We hope you found this both entertaining and educational. Many internet resources available to learn more about the rich history of the Erie Canal, and I'm sure in 2025 you'll see a lot of great programs on the History Channel and those such places, because that'll be the official 200th anniversary of the opening of the full canal. But the best sources is your local library, so please continue to support your libraries, when you get the chance. Our performers tonight on Boran and Low Whistle, Sue Romero from Carroll. On fiddle and guitar and vocals, Ed Campbell from Utica. Down here on tenor banjo and bouzouki, although it looks like a guitar, it really is a bouzouki, and you can ask Skip Mansur about that. Thank you, Skip. This gentleman, this shy and retiring fellow, is Mike Carroll. He plays the flute, the concertina, and tin whistle. And he's from Little Falls, New York. He gets the bill for furthest distance tonight. And this fella, you met Bill Fahy. He's the writer of that great Walking to Buffalo song. I really do like that song.
Bill, you also wrote that first song, didn't you?
I changed it.
You changed
I
it.
added lyrics, yeah.
Nobody was injured in the making of that song.
Good, Mr. Bill Fahy from
And we wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for the fella on my left, Mike.
Hey, you might be enjoying yourself.
Yeah. You might be watching political commercials. But it was Mike's idea to do this show. He did all the research and heavy lifting, put it all together, arranged the songs and music, and the hard part was hurting all of us cats and getting us to do it. So please, thank you to Mr. Mike Hoke.
One more round of
Patty on the Canal.
Patty on the Canal.
Yep, sing along if you remember. When I landed in sweet Philadelphia, the weather was pleasant and clear. Well, I did not stay long in that city, as quickly I shall let you hear. Well, I did not stay long in that city, for it happened to be in the fall. Well, I'd ne'er reefed a sail in my rigging, till I anchored upon the canal. So fare you well, father and mother, and likewise to Ireland too. And fare you well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu. When I came to this wonderful empire, well, it filled me with the greatest surprise to see such a grand undertaking. All the likes I ne'er opened my eyes, to see a full 1,000 brave fellows at work among mountains so tall, to dig through the valleys so level, through rocks for to cut a canal. So fare thee well, father and mother, and likewise old Ireland too. And fare thee well, sister and brother, so kindly I'll bid you adieu. Well, at night we'd all rest from our labors, sure, but our rent is all paid. We lay down our picks and our shovels, and likewise our axe and our spade, playing music and joking together, with nothing our minds to enthrall. If there's happiness so in this wide world, I am sure it is on the canal.
So farewell, father and mother, and likewise with Ireland too, and very well, sister and brother, so kindly I bid you adieu. So farewell, father and mother, and likewise with Ireland too, and very well, sister and brother, so kindly I